And so we want to, these are things that you can control. What else can we do here? I mean, if they're spending $100 on daycare, they should be a little bit smarter with these personal expenses, right? That means that maybe they need to take a look at their entertainment budget. How are ways to reduce that?
Staying home.
Yeah, what else?
No,
I gotta tell you, being new here, there's so much to do in Orlando. There's a ton to do in Orlando for free. And so if you just Google what to do in Orlando for free, you'll have a total of 6 websites that'll tell you everything that's going on in your city. That gives you, that is stuff to do, whether it's for adults, for kid-friendly, or meetup, or whatever it is that you want to do for fun, that's not going to cost you a lot of money, right? And so those are great ways to control this and change that to increase your income, and most importantly, have a little bit more flexibility. Now, if you can't, and that's the case, what should this family do with those $80? Savings, right? Add it to your financial goal. That doesn't mean that you get to spend it all. That means that that's an extra way of saving that extra couple of dollars. So, we've talked about income, we talked about financial goals, we talked about expenses and setting up a spending plan, which is very, very simple. How do we make sure it happens, right? How do we make sure that the spending plan happens? And so these are 3 ways that we can do. Who here follows an envelope system or knows about an envelope system? Okay, that's awesome. That's pretty good. Does everybody know what that means? So an envelope system is literally what you do on your spending plan. You get, if you have 10 cells on that spending plan, you get 10 envelopes and you write down and you put the exact amount of money that you allocated for those specific expenses. And if that money goes through, if your entertainment envelope, there is no money left, and it's the 30th of the month and there's 1 day left, that doesn't mean that you can get it from another envelope. That's just it. You're done, right? That's how you can follow that spending plan. The budget box system is the same way, the same thing, except in an accordion file or in a filing cabinet where you have like files that you can put your expenses on, or on a computer on an Excel spreadsheet. Okay. So now that we know what our spending plan is, another way to help us to get to that spending plan and make sure it's successful is keeping records, right? I mentioned earlier I keep my receipts so that I can go back and know where my money went. Who does that? Who keeps their receipts? Yeah. Did you all know where, I know that you don't bank with Regions, but with your banks, and that's okay, but with your banks, and every bank should be able to offer this, you can go in there and set up a spending plan within your account online by setting alerts, by going in and putting exactly what your merchant was. So if you go to groceries and you want to know how much you spend that month, you can go in there and put the name of the groceries or the place that you go, the merchant, and it'll give you all the transactions that you did there for that month. Credit cards do this as well as banks, and that can make things a little bit easier for you when you're controlling your spending plan. Okay? So, question of the hour. What happens when you have a spending plan, you have a goal, then there are more expenses than there is income? Has that ever happened? Yeah, it's normal. It happens to all of us. So, we can talk about decreasing our spending, and how can we decrease that spending so that doesn't happen? And that's a big one. That is a big one. Who here likes coffee? I love coffee, but I realize that if I drink one coffee a day that I purchase is $1,600 a year for one coffee. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, right? Remember how I talked about Checkers? And the smallest fry is about $1.75. Seriously, I'm obsessed with that place. They don't exist in Texas. That $1.75 can cost me about $600 a year if I do that on a daily basis. Things add up. So what are ways of doing that is doing it at home, right? Meal prep, buy your groceries. Bring your food to work. What are other ways? Sorry? Yeah, absolutely. What are other ways other than bringing food?
Additional expenses at home, like if you have cable, take it out for a bit. So
Yeah, who here has Hulu? Netflix? Who needs cable? Right? Exactly. That's a huge, the cable runs about, what, $130 a month? That's ridiculous, right? And now you're gonna get, with Disney Plus coming, you're gonna let go of Hulu because it's part of that package, right? That's a good point. What else?
Oh, you guys that go get pedicures, we can cut those out.
Maybe we need to do that at
You
home.
can pack it up.
So you get the point. The point is looking at where your expenses are going. Yeah, maybe you have to invest on this thing called the Nest and then and let it control. So it may cost a little bit upfront, but then it can lower your bill as it pays for itself once you see your expenses go down because you have that, right? And so you get where I'm going. It's really taking a look at where you're spending your money, right? Let's take a look at that and make sure that we decrease on the things that we really know. That is known as want versus needs. We need, or we think we need a lot of things, but in reality, we don't. We really just want them. And so put those on your financial goals. If it's something that is a need, not a want, maybe that's a short-term goal. And instead of having it right away, you're gonna maximize your paycheck by just setting it as a financial goal and waiting a little bit longer to get it, right? Does that make sense? Also, you can try stretching your paycheck. What does that mean, stretching your paycheck? You know your salary, you already get it, but how do you, then you don't physically stretch it. How do you stretch that though? So maybe we be conscious about, right, a lot of people, when they're trying to start a spending plan, they do this at the beginning to test. It's like starting a diet, right? First week is miserable. First couple of days are hard. And so if you stretch your check, you try and say, okay, when I get paid, I'm not gonna touch that for a week, right? You know, other than what your fixed expenses are, like your rent, but you wanna make sure you pay your rent, but aside from that, I'm not gonna touch that for a couple of days and test myself, right? And that's how you stretch that paycheck. Cool? One last
Financial
video.
wisdom from an ex-president who doesn't appear on U.S. currency.
Mistake. This guy wanted our national bird to be the turkey. Sure. What else says strength and honor like the first ingredient in turducken? Possibly any other bird on the planet? Let's talk about ways to increase your income by stretching your paycheck, shall we? The 1 week rule can help. When money's tight, hold off on non-essential purchases for 7 days. Later, you may find you've lost interest in those purchases. Instead of meeting friends at a coffee house, restaurant, or mall, suggest that you get together for a walk or go to a free concert or museum. With a little creativity, it's easy to have a social life without spending money. Another great way to stretch your paycheck is to avoid shopping for fun or entertainment. The temptation to buy something you don't need can be quite strong. Case in point, I was perusing a dry goods store recently and I came across these.
He's wearing jeans, by the way. And cannot sit down. So that is what we were talking about, stretching your paycheck. You know, it again, doesn't necessarily mean you don't pay your fixed expenses. It's your extra expenses that you can control that can try that idea and see if it works and gets you to your spending plan. Bargain hunting. There's a lot, I mean, especially with the ones with the little kids, they go through clothes like it's nobody's business. And you know, Once Upon a Child is awesome because you can buy clothes there and you can sell it back there. And you actually make money, they pay you for wearing their clothes. Same thing with Poshmark, right? You buy some clothes there, you wear it for a little bit, take care of it, and sell it right back. eBay, those things that we have laying around at home that we don't need, we can sell them there as well. But a lot of who here has Amazon? That's dangerous, I gotta admit. However though, I often realize that when I'm trying to buy something and I go to the store, I've gone in the habit of looking at it on Amazon, and I can usually find it about $5 to $10 cheaper on Amazon and just wait a day or two, right? And those things add up. So, pay yourself first. Super, super important to pay yourself first. And when you're paying yourself, make sure that you keep yourself accountable, so that when you believe on those financial goals, they actually can happen, okay? Paying off loans is a big one to get to your financial goals. It's super important because you're paying interest that you don't have to be paying. If you prioritize your financial goals or you prioritize your spending plan, put those first. It will go a long way. Or consolidate your debt. Talk to your banker. They should be able to assist you with this, right? Any questions on all of this from anyone?
Can I add something real quick?
Sure.
Just to stretching the paycheck segment there. You know, one of the things we kind of breezed over was negotiating with big ticket items, but even small ticket items, especially with the power of Amazon these days, most retailers will price match. You just have to be comfortable enough to ask. So Best Buy, Target does it. I mean, there's a lot of places that, hey, it's on Amazon, it's $3 cheaper. They'll price match. You just have to ask and get comfortable with asking for a couple dollars off.
You bring up such a great point. Of course, everything happens when something big is happening in your life. And again, I use myself as an example. I moved here 4 weeks ago, and then all of a sudden our fridge goes out back home. And so now we have this huge expense. And a lot of I didn't know this, but we were trying to wait until the sales at the end of November to buy those, large ticket items. They can actually price match 30 days in if you weren't able to wait for that sale. So it's asking those questions and just being comfortable with them. That's very true. Anything else that you all like to add to this? Maybe something that you all do at home that would be better for the group?
I think to piggyback on what he just said, some of the things you can do, contact your cable company or whatever. Generally, you can talk them down
Oh, yeah.
quite a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I talk down DirecTV about every 12 months.
Tell them you're gonna leave them.
Yeah, after then I'll cut my bill off.
That's
Well,
true.
the new
That's very
farm
true. Well, I hope I answered any questions you might have when it comes to spending plan and managing your money. And if I didn't, you have our information, you have Andy's business card there. I hope you take a couple of things home today, if anything, knowing that because you wrote these down, you're 40% more probable of achieving your goals, right? And so I really thank you all for having me here. Thank you for being such a great team. And if you all have any questions, let us know. We'll be hanging out here for a bit, letting you know how you can, answer any questions or letting you know how you can be part of Regions as well. Don't forget about those incentives that we have for you. All right, thank you all very much.
Thank you.